Let's talk about what is socialism so that people can understand the difference between socialism and capitalism.
Okay, socialism is an economic and political notion that the government and the public office is way more efficient and intelligent as to control the economy. It has this perception that the bureaucrat in power somehow has way more information than the average citizen in order to, let's say, control prices or administer different businesses. So everything is allowed. You can expropriate, you can take away businesses from different hands, and the government taking control of that and putting price controls, putting quotas, prohibiting to do transactions, subsidies. Well, in Argentina, you couldn't even have dollars because that became a crime. I mean, there's a lot of regulations. And the notion is that you are doing it for the common good. So what happens in reality is that the individual, which is the most important of all minorities, gets their life, their private property, and their liberties completely violated in the name of this common good that, of course, never arises, never comes. We have seen socialism fail in every continent of the planet, but still, when there's ignorance and when there are people who resent the way of competition or free market ideas, then it can arise.
So essentially, the thing that most people don't realize is that what socialism does is it substitutes the judgment of the individual citizens, and it takes their judgment away and gives it to a bureaucrat.
Yeah.
And the question that people have to ask really is, does a bureaucrat in Washington or the Tegucigalpa, I ruined that capital, of Guatemala, does he know more about what bread or what donuts or what whatever shirts or any kind of product the people want and at what price? This bureaucrat doesn't know anything about all the industries that are in their country.
No.
Right. So they're going to make mistakes because even if they are the most kind-hearted people in the world, angels, they don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So, whereas in a capitalist system, the baker, who is successful for 1 year after another year, 10 years, 20 years, he already knows what the market wants, what the people that buy donuts and bread want, and what price they're willing to pay.
Exactly.
So he can tailor that service to the people efficiently instead of a bureaucrat making the decision, using the capital and squandering it because he's ignorant.
Absolutely. The efficiency of the market consists as we can use things that we could never build for ourselves. It's Leonard Reed and iPencil, you know, this idea that we're using a microphone that I couldn't build, I'm using shoes that I couldn't build. So if we understand that through the market we get stuff that we couldn't build by our own hands, why is it so difficult for us to understand that a bureaucrat in Washington doesn't have that information as a whole? And it's not only good intentions. The problem is you give them absolute power. And there's no way, it doesn't matter how good intentioned you are, that with absolute power, you won't absolutely be corrupted. And that is what ends up happening with socialist leaders. That's why you see that Hugo Chavez and his friends lived like kings. Fidel Castro and his friends lived like kings, because it's what George Orwell described in Animal Farm. Once the pigs get rid of the human, but they are in power, then everything is for them. The only ones who can transact and be in the market and have liberties are this small group at expense of the greatest nation, which, if you come to think about it, cannot be in the best interest of common good.
Absolutely. It never results in the common good, and I think you've expressed the argument very well. So the other thing that happens when you transfer the power to the bureaucrat is that if the bureaucrat makes a mistake and allocates capital incorrectly, his bank account is not affected, right?
No, of course not, because there's this other notion, at least in Latin America, it's the notion of free. we get free education, we get free health, we get free food. Nothing is free in this world. I mean, every cent that goes in the government is because someone else first sweated with their own eyebrows, and it's their production. So every cent that goes in the government, of course, once they allocate the different resources, their personal banking account won't be touched, as you say, but there is a loss. There is the
But under
opportunity
capitalism,
cost.
if you make a bad investment and you don't satisfy the wants and needs of the customers,
Yeah.
you lose your own money, right?
You lose your own money. The loss is individual. So what this does is that it only expands the responsibility, it expands the loss, so no one knows who is actually responsible for it, and then you get in debt in the nation, and no one can actually do something about it. So the first notion that we have to take out of our heads is that nothing is free, and it is really unethical from politicians and civil society leaders to be saying we demand free stuff. There's no such thing as that.
Yes, the difference between a child and a grown-up is that a grown-up knows that you have to earn the things that you want, and the child expects to get them for free.
Yeah.
And so these people are basically at a child level when they think they're just going to get manna from heaven,
Yeah.
because they're ignoring the basic fact of reality that you have to earn what you want in life. I would say not only in the economic sphere, but in every sphere.
Definitely.
So in personal relations, in friendships, in love relationships, whatever, you have to earn the love. You have to earn the money. You have to earn the knowledge.
Yeah.
You have to make the effort to understand, like you have, all these more or less complex political theory ideas. So I congratulate you for having done that. Now, there may be one thing I'd like to cover besides that, which is there's another way in which you can bring into socialism. It's the one which is threatening the United States, which is you can increase the taxes so that the government takes more of the money and spends more of the money that was earned by the citizens. And so each time you do that, there's less and less freedom because you cannot spend, allocate, or invest your own money the way you think you should,
Yeah.
because the government already took it away from you.
Yeah, that is actually the way that you start implementing socialism of the 21st century via a democratic election, because you cannot come and with violence expropriate. That comes later. The first thing you do is increment taxes and also public employment, because what you do with this new money is that you create more offices, more public offices, so you start like buying allies. You have more citizens working for the system, so it's more difficult to rebel from it because they are benefiting in the short term from the sacrifice that you're doing in the long term.
Yeah, you create a constituency to support this socialistic movement, say like the government unions, where they promise them great benefits and higher wages and better pension plans than anybody could afford. And why does the government permit that? Because, well, these people are going to vote for them. So anyway, Gloria, you are a great speaker.
Thank you very
and
much.
Considering that English is your second language, you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
By the way, I speak Spanish fluently.
Ah, buenísimo. Eso es increíble, qué bueno.
Thank you. But I had to do